up, guys? Today is November 5th, and it's a vlog. Come in there all smooth and all. Anyways, what's up, guys? So today we're gonna talk about what camera settings you should be using when you are filming video. All right, so first things first is we're gonna talk about frames per second. And what exactly is frames per second? Frames per second is the amount of frames taking per second. It's literally that simple. So if you're doing 24 frames per second, you're shooting in, there's 24 individual pictures lined up to make that motion. Same thing with, 30 frames, 60, 120. If it's 120, you're taking 120 pictures per second. If that confused you, here's a chart to see exactly what I mean. So you'll see on the top, it's 24 frames per second versus the 60 frames per second. You can see there's a lot more frames, obviously, right? So the question is, be like, hey, when should I use, when do I use 60? When do I use 24? When do I use 30? So 24 frames is gonna give you a more cinematic look. It's gonna have that motion blur. This right now is being filmed in 24 frames. So you can see with my hand, there's a little bit of motion blur. Versus 60 frames where there's really no motion blur at all. Just did like a John Cena thing. You can't see me! Wait a second, I think we got someone coming in while I'm filming. Hey George, thank you for calling Fake Media Productions, where we make the most awesome videos in the world. Anyway, 24 frames is gonna give you more cinematic look. That's what the Avengers Endgame and all the movies in the cinemas, that's what they're filmed in. 30 frames is gonna give you more of a natural type of film. So that's gonna be the most natural looking video that you can get. So usually people use that for soap operas and news channels. 60 frames is gonna be, you're actually gonna be able to slow things down and speed things up with it looking way better now. Speeding up isn't really that much important, but slowing down is huge. So as you can see, when you try to slow down a 24 frame clip, it's gonna be really choppy. As you know, 24 frames, there's not enough frames to fill that gap in. 60 frames is gonna give you a nice smooth, slow motion type feel. Most phones nowadays, you can go up to 120, and I've seen some for 240 frames per second. Those are gonna be where you can get them that really slow motion, that silky, smooth type look. All right, so we talked about frames per second. We talked about when to use it. We talked about the differences. Now, Fink, what about the other settings? What about shutter speed, ISO, aperture? When should I adjust those and how? So the basic rule of thumb when it comes to video, so you wanna double your shutter speed, double the frame rate for your shutter speed. So for example, if you're shooting in 24 frames, your shutter speed is gonna be 1/50th of a second. Along with, if you're doing 60 frames per second, then it's gonna be 1/120th of a second. All right, with me? Stay with me, you got it. You got it, it's perfect. So now you set your settings. You want it to get a good cinematic look, so you're doing 24 frames. Your shutter speed is at 1/50th of a second. What about aperture and ISO? First things first, aperture is always gonna be your best friend. ISO, if you bump it up too high, it's gonna get a really grainy looking type of feel to it, like here's a clip. So as you can see, it's really grainy, it's not good. I'm also filming on a kind of lesser quality camera, just to prove the point. This is actually called light noise. ISO is gonna be the last thing you adjust. So in order, it's gonna be frames per second, shutter speed, aperture, then ISO. Aperture is a hole which through light travels. So if you open up your aperture, you're gonna let in all that light. If you close it down, you're gonna shut off a lot of the light. So normally you're gonna wanna open your aperture up in lower light settings. If it's too bright out, then you just bump that aperture up. If you have any question about it, just shoot a little underexposed, so that way in post, you can go back and fix it. Sound editing. When you're recording a clip, you're gonna want your sound settings to be around -12 to -6, right in that decimal mark, right there. That's gonna give you the perfect sound, so that way it's not so loud when you turn on the speakers or when you turn on your TV, you turn on anything. You're gonna be good to go. You're gonna be nice, you're gonna have nice professional sound, you're gonna have nice professional video, everything. you want your videos to be as professional as possible. The basic rule of thumb when it comes to video, film better than a phone. That's how you get good. That's what's going to set you apart from everyone else. That's a basic first lesson that you should do. Shoot better than an iPhone or Pixel or Samsung, whatever you want to use. So with those settings, combining the frames per second, the shutter speed, the ISO, the aperture, and the sound, you're going to take your filmmaking to the next level. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I hope it really helped you guys. Let me know in the comments if you started implementing this practice and if you are more happier with your film. So thanks for watching though. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Stay tuned. Hit that notifications as well. There's gonna be more vlogs coming. We got a lot of traveling coming up here soon in the next couple months. So yeah, until then, keep it real.